Hello and welcome to a discussion on the topic the media and religion. Let me first give a brief introduction about this topic. You see, initially media was believed to be deeply rooted in history, but the contemporary notion of media can be canvassed to the development of movable type printing in the pre-modern era. It is also to be noted that media was not merely a technological occurrence because it was also characterized by important economic, structural and political attributes. Most significantly, the printing revolution laws were the main roots of development of media industries, which were autonomous centers of power and which were also capable of bringing about change in the existent political and social systems. Apart from the political and social spheres, media also affected religion immensely. Let me say that apart from being associated with the Protestant Reformation, printing also played a very important role in the Counter-Reformation and in subsequent religious evolutions. All these different religious movements became a part of what is said to be democratized religious culture of North America, and they have all depended in some way or the other on media technology. You see, the complex relations that surfaced in a variety of contexts, beginning from political to economic to religion, and also the identification of the composite nature of the media must be studied by the social analysis of the media. Generally speaking, media sociology has analyzed three related spheres: the institutions of media, the composition of media, and the outcome of media. Today, mass communication, media sociology, media psychology, and more commonly media studies are the different terms used to describe this scholarly discipline. Thus, this discipline is intensely rooted in the social sciences of sociology, psychology, and anthropology, and today owes much to the rising interdisciplinary turbulence. Now let us shift attention to the underlying features of the media, which I will now discuss in brief. The first one is that the media has a technological origin, and so technological changes have a significant role to play in the development and in the evolution of the media. Secondly, the media is a highly complex institution having hierarchical complexity as well as role and task differentiations. Thirdly, since the media act as a major economic forces, they are extensively incorporated as structures and industries. Fourthly, in comparison to other social institutions, their economic location provides them with a kind of individualism. And finally, the media are translocal, that is to say, they may be based locally but can also move beyond the local boundaries. Today this is termed as globalization. My discussion now moves on to the paradigm of media. Well, with substantial contemplation of the media in the mid 20th century, there was a multiplicity of preconceived notions about media. From an early age, we are made to think of ourselves as device of communication. So it is natural for us to think that communication includes intentions or purposes, directionalities or objectives, causes as well as effects. In this regard, it is often presumed that mass communication must be the same as interpersonal communication, because interpersonal communication also involves intentions and effects. This is the logic behind the idea that the study of media should be about its measurable effects. Know that the media can send or post messages, but the only question is whether these messages are effectively received. Such effects could be distinctly measured by the new objective and quantitative techniques that show up in the social sciences. This paradigm of media came under the scanner later, and the agitation had two main sources. First, with the progress in social measurement of media effects, the accountability of the extensive range of media phenomenon became quite unlikely. Second, uplifting intellectual unrest in disciplines associated to media like linguistics, languages, anthropology, and increasingly sociology led to a reappraisal of some basic ideas about the way media has been perceived. This rethinking had important consequences for the social measurement of media relevant to religion. Well, let me now speak of media's mediation of religion. Here I would like to speak of James Curry, a communications theorist, media critic, and a journalism instructor at the University of Illinois and later Columbia University. In his essay, Media Rituals, Curry spoke about a distinction between what he called transmission and a ritual view of mass communication. Not only did he argue about the preconceived notions under which media research was then supervised, but he also opened avenues for a new and expanded way of viewing at the question of ritual and mainly at religion. Earlier, religion was comparatively unattended by media scholars, perhaps because of the unenhanced reading of theories of secularization. Many viewed religion as complex, something that deals with issues beyond the rational, and thus beyond the arena of empirical measurement. Scholars even assume that religion was unlikely to be a critical feature of media evolution. But in the later part of the century, there was a seeming prevalence of religion and its increasing presence in popular and public culture. People's attention was drawn to the academic study of religion, and this coincided with the realization that much was still left to the understanding of contemporary religion and its evolution. Simultaneously, the media and processes of modern mediation were appearing as major context for this religious alteration. After having spoken of mediation in religion, let me now talk about the two phases of mediated public culture, something which I should not miss out on. Well, there was an important classification that came to be identified between the two phases of mediated public culture, the classification between journalism and entertainment. Well, you see, religion journalism has become functional to media practice as well as to the constitution and applications of religious institutions. But of course, there is a well defined line that has been drawn between the purposeful practice of journalism and the trivial realm of entertainment media. In this context, I would like to talk about tele-evangelism. Many of you might be acquainted with the term. Well, tele-evangelism is peculiarly an American phenomenon, resulting from a chiefly deregulated media where access to television networks and cable TV is open to virtually anyone who can afford it. But this was in fusion with a large Christian population who can provide the required funding. Different religious programs were aired on the radio, and throughout the 20th century, a standard feature of American culture, which, as I might say, was the device of the radio preacher. Slowly the horizon expanded and religion found place in the visual medium too, with the rise of commercial television in the 1950s. Later, with the development of satellite broadcasting, satellite based distribution of programming and the cable television, religion and media gained even more attention. But there was always the bright line between religion and media. Durkheim, for example, regarded religion to be rooted as a generative source of society. So it was assumed that, like technologies and institutions, the media would operate at a level of some mechanical solidarity and would be observed in terms of their threats or at least effects on religion. This paradigm was questioned. But since tele-evangelism as a public concern faded to a certain extent, work on religion and media progressed further. Well, in the present era, the sociology of religion has not only penetrated the spheres of journalism, social and cultural rituals, or wider religious processes and practices, but also the domain of entertainment media. The second phase of mediated public culture, which I will now briefly talk about. Entertainment media, as you might know, has the capability of developing new and reconstructed forms of religion. Today, the main focus is on the audiences. Well, not only on the audiences, but also on their reception of media messages and participation in mediated religious experiences. But let me also say that there are exceptional cases where significant attention is also paid to the content of religion in digital media. It might be interesting for you to know that rising trends in realms of religion studies and media studies has led to their convergence and the growth of mediated social marketplace. This is the result of intensifying interest in the development of religious and spiritual exploration. Stephen Warner has incorporated this approach under the framework of new paradigm describing the reorientation from religion as ascribed to religion as achieved as the primary feature of this shift. Not surprisingly, you can witness a fundamental change in the nature of American culture. Autonomy in religion has led to a faith sensibility encouraging individuals to seek or quest. This entails individuals acquiring increasing authority. Let me discuss some implications of this trend. Firstly, we see a shift in authority from the prescribed doctrines and institutions of religion to individuals who strive to protect the prescribed self. Secondly, with this diminishing authority of institutions, religion is found well beyond the boundaries of tradition, thereby allowing the entire arena of media culture and commodities to be potentially fundamental to religious quest. This is correspondent with further growth of trends in media studies. Scholars of media believe that the objective of the production made by media industries is not important, but what is interesting is the point that how audiences interpret and utilize these messages. I am sure you all will agree with me on the fact that irrespective of the channel, genre or form, social studies of media should occupy themselves with how these things are used, interpreted and made sense of by the audience. This increasing union between scholarships of religion and media is reflected in the American sociologist Jeffrey Alexander's idea for a strong program in cultural sociology. This attributed to a rise in technology, an increasing proliferation of channels, cable and satellite television, including home videos, and the gradual digitalization of the media have accelerated these trends with a growing media marketplace. This implies a diversity of contents in addition to a diversity of sources. Thus, we can today witness the possibility of a much more open marketplace of media sources of religion. Within the material and conceptual context, religion and spirituality are largely dependent upon choices of individuals within their range of marketplaces. This emerging media marketplace provides religious and spiritual symbols and resources which occupies a central role in mediation for the individual. Mediation, as you might have already understood, plays a role beyond its instrumental dimension. In the present era, the desire of the media to project itself as an autonomous and independent power is more intense and overwhelming. As a result, there is a diverse range of media contexts, practices, and forms that may be crucial for social analysis. Despite this, not too comprehensive works have emerged. Perhaps this is why it should be followed by additional efforts, works, and approaches. It can be seen that with the assistance of widespread production work in a diversified range, there was a proliferation in media orientation. The products of different media organizations not only entered religious discussions as major sources of ideas and symbols pertaining to religion and religious identity, but also attributed to the growth of sophisticated religious discussions like test cultures, which constituted the basis of religious productions. The importance of media institution for expressing religious interests was accepted as evangelism and got incorporated in popular mediation. The evangelists feel that the media can be utilized for the good by the efforts made by the dedicated religionists in charge of power. They also question the importance of their religious and secular context for portraying religious or spiritual material. A persistent question is about the possibility of audience or the producers switching over or crossing from the secular to the religious side and vice versa. Well, the idea of religion and spirituality via the media has witnessed a change with the development of new paradigms in media and religion scholarship. New questions and context of analysis have been brought forward by the recent evolution of the digital age and the rearrangement of the analytical field research. This has occurred in two major ways. Firstly, an in-depth scrutiny was demanded with the introduction of a whole range of newly developed phenomena. Secondly, I will speak a little of Christopher Helland. Christopher Helland provided a precise analytic difference between the concepts of religious online and online religion. Well, religious online shows the ways in which the digital age has been used by religious bodies and institutions as well as by individuals for conventional religious purposes. On the other hand, in online religion, the digital world may form the basis of an innovative way of being and doing religion. Thus, the process of seeking religious subjects can be incorporated with the structuration and interactivity of the digital media. One thing you must note is that the sociology of religion is greatly concerned with the scholarship of digital relation. Important scholarships have been undertaken for material and visual cultures. To define them a little well, material culture is concerned with the practices of religion and spirituality and analyzes the ways by which these processes are incorporated within objects, built environment and geographies, all of which represent material contexts. Conversely, visual culture deals only with media and mediation. Now let me give an example from the work of David Morgan, a professor of religious studies at Duke University. Morgan has developed a field study emphasizing the visual representation and experience of American religion. He affirmed that the central position of American piety is occupied by the popular usage of visual imagery. This is incorporated in the work about media and religion, since such religious practice involves mediation. In both types, institutional and doctrinal authority is grounded in the authority's defamation of these objects as unfit resources to faith and spirituality. But one thing which I must state in this context is that American religion signifies a long history of commodification. Why I say this is because the history of American religious and secular spheres has been linked commercially, and this is quite evident in the case of religious mediation. In fact, literature too supports the fact that markets and marketing are crucial sites of religious practice in the contemporary West. And we must also remember that the boundaries of religion and spirituality will expand only when the implications of religion and spirituality are viewed in terms of market. Well, a majority of the work on religious mediation seems to be centered on youth and youth cultures, where the junction between media and religion seems to be really striking. This is due to the fact that, in spite of the youth being passionate users of media and not evincing much interest in religion, the greater part of religiously centered media is directed towards them. This enhances their curiosity and involvement in religion. In addition, it also opens the source of inquiry of how secular media are interpreted by them in terms of religion and spirituality. This is unfailing with the general theme which states that media context is imperative for the creation and recreation of religious identity. You see, media occurrences are also represented by globalization. I say this because social, cultural, economic and political relations are greatly becoming translocal and transnational. Also, new landscapes of culture are formed as the formally specific cultural and social dimensions are ignored. Within this context, the mediation of religion becomes central to the social research and scholarship in a number of ways. In the religious scene, the media puts forward the context for global religious representation, understanding and conflict. The process by which religion is deciphered within and beyond their national context is the fundamental way in which religion is replicated in international journalism. This can be seen in the events surrounding the 9/11 attacks and their effects. In the days post 9/11, we have witnessed a change and a global proliferation in representations of religion in the media and the creation of media by religious interests. An interesting example is that of Islam. Islam has been looked at in various contexts, including the internet and the web, and also the use of digital media by Muslim organizations and interests. As a matter of fact, today a growing area of interest is how mediation in the Muslim world might lead to transformation of Islam in the world context. Undoubtedly, there is an abundant supply of studies that analyze the mediation of religion and culture in concrete social contexts. Contrary to this relationship of the media and the local cultures, innumerable scholars have stated that those dominant cultures are increasingly negotiating with global culture. Hence, there is a culmination of new media forms, practices and identities. Common examples can be popular religious practices in Egypt, welcoming Bollywood or Hindi movies in India and the like. Although these may appear to be complex, but they do provide a detailed analysis of the ways in which religion and media are being more and more integrated. With this, I come to an end of the discussion on the subject of the media and religion. Thank you for attending the lecture. I look forward to meet you in some other discussion on some other topic.